Welcome, everybody. It's Richard Flook, and this is the How Can I Heal podcast. And today we have the amazing, wonderful, lovely, I wish I could actually go up and hug her, Dr. Anu Mehta. I've known Anu from a very amazing, a time when I was teaching in Prague, and hopefully I'll get to do that again. But Anu was in this audience, and at the time, and we were doing some what was called meta medicine at the time, now called meta health, and she sort of, I was teaching in English, and she came and we just spoke, and we had this incredible interaction. And ever since then, we've been great friends. I've been to India. She now lives in India. She was living in Prague at that time. And I've had the privilege, she's invited me over there several times to go and teach. And I've met the Indian people. And if you're Indian watching this, just absolutely love the Indian people that I've met. And likewise, there's something truly magical about what's happening in India. But Anu, since that time, has gone off and got a doctorate. So she's now Dr. Anu Mehta. And what she's doing with regards to the non-verbal side of bringing up trauma or looking at all of that, which she's going to explain in more detail, is just, you would say, oh, that's so obvious, but it isn't. And she's doing things with drums, she's doing things with clay, she's working with other things, and you would think, I can't get my head around that. How can that cause healing to occur? But it does. So I know these things work, but I'm really intrigued about how Anu is applying that in her practice. And there we go. Let's over to you, Anu. Tell people a little bit more about yourself, where you are, and where you're in Bombay or Mumbai, as that was relabeled, and in the bustling city there. So over to you, Anu.
So hi, everybody, and thank you, Richard, for giving me this amazing opportunity. Richard is someone who not just gave me opportunity today, but he's someone who gave me opportunity many, many years ago. You know, it's not enough to have a talent. You also need someone who can look at that talent and say, hey, you know what? That talent is of some use. So he's been that person in my life, always been grateful and will remain so. Ask me where I am right now. I think I began my journey with curiosity because I didn't practically have any illness or anything. It was just that I was going through a very difficult phase in my life on a personal front when I met Richard. But over a period of time, I realized after coming back to India and being with my ailing father for 9 years, I would see my father, who was very busy man, someone who didn't have time for us, that's the family, to suddenly being a person who was sitting in a couch, not moving, because he came down with illness. He had paralytic attacks, stroke, and all kinds of things. And suddenly a man who wouldn't stop talking wasn't speaking at all. And my mind went into how can we bring a smile to his face? You know, it's easy to ask questions to a person who can talk. How do you wrap your head around somebody who's not going to talk? Who's not going to respond to anything that you're going to tell him? He's been my inspiration, and he left the planet Earth 5.5 years back, teaching me something really important. That's the non-verbal side of looking at what is the trauma. And so I have deep regard for anything that's like drumming, gongs, Tibetan bowls, painting, drawing, clay work, anything where we are not really talking, but we are expressing. I believe, Richard, it's a gift that we all get to express ourselves. And each one's expression, whether it's an Indian, whether you're from UK or you're living in any part of the world, we want to be heard, we want to be seen, we want to be felt, we want to be appreciated. And I believe that our traumas begin from there. And somewhere, the sounds that you can't make with your own mouth, or you can't, I mean, I've even used the sounds that you can make with your own voice, or consonants, or vowels, that, as you can call it, the Hindi literature. Everything can be used to your benefit to heal you. You are a walking machine which heals by itself. It's just that we haven't explored ourselves.
So on that note, I mean, it's a wonderful story. I wasn't even aware of that with your dad. I knew he wasn't well. And that wonderful, though, connection that you made between his forced upon silence, but your ability to then go, well, how can he open up? How can I help him to well, tell a little bit about that, because you're using sound, you're using the nonverbal to express yourself and just give yourself a voice is like you said, stopped. So how does that play out with with your work? Or let me ask you that question.
So I'll start with my dad first and then go back to answering your second question.
Yeah.
I had never gone and told my dad all my life, Dad, I love you. Never. Because that's not what you did in my culture, especially in my house culture. And I was very loyal to that. When I realized I couldn't reach, my voice couldn't reach him, I went and hugged him. It was the beginning of a new bond. And I know the first time I gave him a big hug and said to him very softly in his ears, Dad, I love you. He just looked at me, baffled as to what was I doing. I could have got discouraged saying he hasn't returned anything back, he's looking scared or whatever. But I was determined to form a bond with my father, to walk into the shell that he had built around himself. So every time I met him, and I was really lucky because I was very close to him, like 10 minutes away, a drive, and I would visit him practically twice or thrice a week. And this became our ritual, Dad, I love you. Slowly, if I didn't give him a hug, if I didn't say I love you, he looked baffled. So before you go into the sound of anything, it was the sound of my voice. It was what I wanted to express to him and what was unexpressed for very, very long. When I gave myself permission to do that without asking anyone, because my heart felt that was right, I was able to reach him. Much later in the day, when I did learn about the sound, I did a session with him. And at that point, he had reached a place where, I mean, I'm just saying it was a silent journey of 10 years with him, 9 years. He wouldn't talk at all. I mean, I don't remember in 9 years he having spoken more than 2 hours. That's too much in 9 years. But on that fine day, I remember putting the Tibetan bowls around him and on his body, and the Tibetan bowls have a vibration. So when you're striking it, playing it in the way that my teacher had taught me, and there's nothing called a right way of playing sound or a wrong way of playing sound. It's just sound. What happened that night was really amazing. When he was lying down and I was playing these sounds on him, because he was lying on the meditative bed and I'm playing sounds for him, he screamed loudly and said, "Stop doing this altogether," because his body was resisting something. But after I had completed the session, which lasted for about an hour, hour and a half, hour and a half of just playing the bowls around him, no other sound, he suddenly looked up at me and said, "I want to talk to you." We had a conversation wherein he told me what he wants me to do for him before he dies, where and who he wants to meet before he dies, what is unexpressed within him. I had never known what was his mom's name. He revealed to me his mom's name, how she was, how early he lost her. He went back, and I would simply say he had a verbal diarrhea, where he was just talking. So this was about 2 or 3 months before he actually passed on the other world, that we were actually able to complete every wish of his.
Wow.
Every wish of his. And what was most amazing, during that 3 months, he kept telling me, "I can see God has come to take me. But I'm telling God, I'm not going right now. I have to complete the process. You need to complete everything that I've asked you to do." And his last words to me, Richard, were, I had gone for work. I came back at night, and he looks at me and says, "I've been waiting for you. I love you, Anu. Continue doing your work with love and light. I don't want you to ever stop doing work. And you are my star." These are the 3 lines he spoke to me, a man who had never spoken. And half an hour after that, he wasn't there in the world anymore. This is something that gave me a completion in my life. I think I'm the luckiest girl on the planet Earth who had that kind of completion with her father. Because every pore of my body can feel the gratitude, the trust, the love, which was unsaid, being shared between the two of us. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Because I think that many people, we've all, when you get to our age, basically, we lose those loved ones. It's just natural. It's just going to happen, isn't it? But so many people that I've come across have had unfinished business with their parents. Because what I think most people are unaware of is that your parents are basically just like you are when you get to your age, and our age. We're just really young kids at the end of the day, still just trying to find a way through on this planet, and we don't listen to our parents, or if we do listen to our parents, they can get it so wrong. So it's fascinating. I think the most important thing there is that then drove you, did it, to learn more about what's going on in the world, about how do we communicate, because it isn't just always with words. There's other things that were going on. Obviously, you were using non-verbal communication with him, and this then had this magical effect of opening him up.
I think most of our communication is non-verbal. We're just not aware of how we're using our body. We're saying yes, and we Indians do it very often. We use nod our head as if to communicate and say yes, whatever you're saying, yes. And that's probably been created 200 years of being under the rule, British rule. Now, what I'm trying to get at is there are these things are even invisible to us, that we are doing something. We're communicating with our body. If we are dead, we are communicating we are dead. If we are not smiling, we're communicating that we are cross with you. If I move out of the room, my body is a communicator. It's talking from every pore. It's just that we haven't stopped to hear it. And we don't want to hear it. Because if we did hear what our body, our mind wants to tell us, we may not be able to deal with it. We want to look at life most